Let me guess. You feel stuck in your yoga practice. You're wondering why, after all this time and energy that you've poured into your yoga journey, you don't feel that much calmer. Your hamstrings are just as tight as they used to be. And you don't really feel like you're getting stronger just through the practice itself. What if I told you that it isn't about having better genes or a less hectic life? What if it's just about where you've been putting your time and your energy? Stick with me because you're about to find out exactly what's holding you back in your yoga journey and how to finally have that breakthrough where you feel different, where you live different through your yoga practice. If you're new here, I'm Sushmita, but you can call me Sushi. And on this channel, I help you master your mind through yoga and develop this into a consistent, unshakable habit. And you see, I've been teaching for the last decade and I've seen the same character walk through my classes time and time again. They're doing everything right. They're having their supplements, they're wearing a fitness tracker, they're carrying this pink Stanley cup into class. They've got like friends who also do yoga, and they may be going to a studio once or twice a week. It's usually like hot vinyasa or Bikram or something fast paced because they know that, they need something that will actually feel like a workout. And it's been 4 years since they've been doing this kind of exploring and searching and looking for different experiences, but it doesn't truly feel like the yoga is working. They don't feel any stronger, they don't feel any calmer, even though they're doing all the right things. Yoga alone seems to be insufficient towards their health and wellness goals. The issue is the very thing that you think is making your practice richer, all that variety, is the exact thing that's actually watering down your results. You're scattering your energy like a handful of seeds in the wind, just hoping that something will land on fertile ground. But today we're going to take all of those scattered seeds and plant them deliberately and wait for them to sprout patiently. So, if you're here and you feel like your hamstrings are just as stubborn as they were 2 years ago and yoga on its own isn't working for you, then I'm here to tell you that it's not necessarily your fault. It might just be your approach, the way that you're doing yoga. And there's a link for that in the description below where you can see how I would approach this practice in a structured, time-tested, progressive way that actually builds strength slowly through a set sequence of postures. But basically what you need to know is that maybe it's where you're putting your time and energy that actually needs to be optimized. So this is the real reason why you don't seem to be progressing in yoga and how to fix it. So the journey from where you are now to where you want to be in your yoga practice comes down to two fundamental elements. That is, how you manage your time and how you manage your energy. And the way that you manage your time and energy will make all the difference. And we want to achieve this state of optimal growth. And for optimal growth to happen, we need consistency. We need to have like scheduled sessions so we know that it's in our calendar. We need to be sleeping well, hydrating enough, looking at our rest and recovery. We also need to be managing our energy and time, the two things that we're going to discuss today. And this is what ensures that you actually make progress in your practice. So when we look at our lifestyle and we see the way that we've been living, we can see that maybe there's some things that we've been spending too much time on, or the way in which we're doing some things is depleting our energy, so that by the time we come to the mat and we say, okay, I'm ready to practice, there seems to be no time left in the day and we're far too tired to actually make the best of this kind of practice. So in this video, we're going to look at how to make the most of the time that you do have and replenish your energy using the practice so that you don't feel sore and tired and just like exhausted by the end of the day, but you see your yoga practice as something that will give you more energy rather than taking away more energy from you. So firstly, I want to look at the time factor. Most people underestimate the time that it takes to see real lasting change. You see, our brains are so wired for quick fixes these days and the instant gratification that we get from just clicking a button and we have groceries delivered. All we have to do is like click a button and we see this array of any kind of show that we want to watch. If we open up our Instagram, we have this like dopamine hit constantly giving us different things that we want to see. So the idea of a long-term commitment, of something that takes time before you can see results, it can seem daunting, it can seem like almost like something that you don't need to do these days. But that's why it's actually so important that we look at this. You might have been practicing yoga for years. Maybe you've been practicing for 3, 4, 5 years, and you feel like you should be further along. You've been spending money and time going to a studio, but you still can't just roll out your mat and practice. And your ego might reject what I'm about to say. It might just be like, no, I've already been practicing for so long, so don't worry, I think I can already do an advanced class. But I'm just going to set an expectation, and it's a really crucial one, so I don't want you to ignore this. It's to acknowledge this time factor and to notice that it actually takes 6 weeks to 12 months to actually see progress with this practice. To truly transform your practice, to move from feeling stuck and frustrated to feeling free, light, and empowered in your body, it's going to take you a minimum of 6 weeks so that the habit gets built, so that you can practice from memory, so that self-practice becomes a thing that's easy for you, all the way to 12 months to not just learn the names of the poses, how to get in and get out of them, but to allow time so that the postures kind of undo all the stuckness, manage and balance your left and right sides, manage your emotions, and so that it works on a much deeper level than just learning the postures and repeating them from memory. So this takes consistent and focused effort. So although you could be practicing for 12 months already, you're saying, okay, I've already been practicing through YouTube videos with Yoga with Adrian or whatever for 12 months, you might not be seeing the kind of results that you would otherwise see if you followed a structured program. So the time factor only comes into play. You can only say it's going to take you 6 weeks to 12 months if you have consistent and focused effort and you're doing one thing. We'll get into this a little bit later, but you might be tempted to ignore this and you might just be like, wait, I can just open up YouTube and do a half primary sequence or a full primary sequence. And sure, you might do that on a really good energy day, you might be able to finish the whole sequence. But if you do this on a day when you don't have as much energy and you still expect yourself to do the whole sequence, or maybe on one day you feel like you could do more, you could be breathing more, you could be doing other things after the practice like pranayama or extra shavasana, then following just a set sequence that's already on YouTube might be limiting what you could potentially do. So all I'm saying is, don't just jump into clicking on a video that has half primary, full primary. I know that whole bar there right outside here is going to be distracting you, wanting you to click away. But I just want you to stay focused and listen, because I can almost guarantee that if you do this, if you just click on an advanced video and follow that advanced video without laying the proper foundation, you're going to find yourself back where you started. I don't mean that your progress is going to be stalled, or you're going to go back and you're not going to be able to do the postures that you were once able to do. You're going to be back in that place where yoga isn't a consistent habit. So what I'm trying to get you to do is not see the practice as you need to do everything every day, but rather as something that's integrated into your busy life seamlessly, so that on any given day you're only doing a little bit, but that little bit is actually helping you feel calmer, it's actually getting you more stronger, it's actually opening up the muscles that feel tight on that particular day. And this comes only when you give it time. So the universe operates on this principle of cause and effect. We obviously know this. We have to realize that a headstand or a handstand or a back bend or whatever is an effect. All of those things is an effect. Doing primary series is an effect. And every effect has a cause. So if we can identify the right causes, put in those causes for long enough, then of course we're going to see the effect. Of course we're going to be able to do a headstand or a handstand. And while we only see the effects on Instagram or when we see other people flowing through poses effortlessly, we have to kind of backwards engineer and see what are the causes that they're actually putting in. And can you optimize those causes? So when we look at the cause and effect at play, let's take a simple example of when you're feeling hungry. So initially there's this state where you're feeling this unpleasant feeling of emptiness, your stomach is grumbling, you know you need to have something to eat. Now at this point you realize, okay, I need to do something to get myself from a state of feeling hungry where I can't work, where I can't do anything else because my body is just telling me that I need to eat, to this desired state of satisfaction where you have a feeling of fullness, you have this feeling of satiation, you're no longer hungry and cranky. So you want to get from the state of crankiness and hunger and distraction to a state of satiation and fullness. And the only way to do that is to eat something. So let's say you make a sandwich, and making that sandwich, preparing the meal, so gathering all the ingredients, assembling the sandwich, eating it, All of that is that middle ground, this part that we often ignore as what takes us from a state of hunger to a state of satisfaction. Now, if we look at this with our yoga practice, right now, maybe there's this feeling of like agitation that comes when you try to follow a video online and you're not able to follow it fully, and you realize, okay, I want to feel the state of, I fully stretch and strengthen my body, I feel lighter, and then I can carry on with my day. But this preparation, this middle step is what's crucial. One, it's noticing what actions we have to do, but also more crucially is allowing time to lapse between where you are now and where you want to be, feeling light, feeling energized, feeling like this practice is actually working for me. So you have to be doing those consistent efforts. You have to be putting in all the reps for a long enough time, for a significant period, before you can actually say, oh, my yoga practice is something that makes me feel light and energized and have more energy, rather than something that's just a drain that I struggle to do, that feels like one more thing on this checklist that I have to do, because otherwise I'm going to feel bad about myself. So you have to allow time to pass between when you start putting in the reps and when you can actually see the benefits. And the reason for this is that initially, when you just start your yoga practice, you'll realize, I'm not seeing many benefits of all these things that the people say. They say, do yoga for tight hips, but if you do just 5 stretches, you may feel like a little bit of relief in the short term, but you don't feel like you've done anything significantly to reduce your chronic stress, your chronic tension that your body is holding. And the reason for that is that you could be just paying off the debt. So let's say you've got a whole lot of debts that you owe. Only when you pay off the debts can you reach this place where your bank balance is zero. So if you've been neglecting your body, if you've been eating junk food, if you haven't been practicing, if you haven't been moving, if you've lived a sedentary lifestyle, don't nod and say, okay, that's me. I want you to recognize this is the point where you just have to acknowledge, I kind of just have to sit through this pain. I kind of just have to endure this place where I'm not going to be seeing any results. I'm just going to be putting in the reps and it's going to feel shitty. This is when you know that you're just paying off your debt. You don't know how long this period could last. It entirely depends on how long you've been neglecting your body. And if you haven't been neglecting it for a while and you've been reasonably taking care of yourself, next, you've got to establish consistent action. So by consistency, I mean you're able to practice 4 to 5 times a week. If you're doing other things, let's say you're doing gym or you're running or you're doing other things, then you define your level of consistency. For me, I like to think that practicing yoga 4 times a week for 45 minutes or 3 times a week for 60 minutes is a level of consistency where I notice that most people can see benefits. So I suggest you get to this point so it's tangible, it's real, that you can work towards it using a simple consistency tracker. You can see, okay, I'm practicing 3 times a week or 4 times a week. That's when you can say, okay, I've achieved consistent action, which means I'm able to roll out my mat and practice without life just getting in the way. Once you've paid off your debt, you've reached that point of zero and you're putting in a little bit of money, you're adding in money into the bank account, you then start to see that at some point, and you don't even know when this is going to happen, is that you hit a tipping point. And this is where your growth actually becomes exponential. And then you have this massive transformation. You see that even small little efforts, even if you're practicing for 10, 15 minutes and you're practicing with full breath, you're able to see how it's changing the rest of your day. You're able to see how things that you discover within your practice, it's actually a mirror for your life, and that those same tendencies are showing up in your real life. So when you fix them on the mat, you're actually able to catch those tendencies in real life. Your relationships improve, your work life improves. All these consequences come as a result of sticking through and staying in the fire long enough so that you have that breakthrough, that tipping point. And most people, they quit before they have this breaking point, before they unlock postures. And I know that, the goal isn't to be able to do advanced postures. The goal is very much to be I feel calm and centered in my body and I feel stable through the day. That's what the yoga really gives you. But unlocking postures, being able to lift up from a back bend, being able to touch your toes, all of these are tangible kind of like physical, visual representations of the effort that you've been putting in, of like no longer neglecting your body, of actually taking consistent action. And the body rewards you by unlocking postures for you. So once you've hit this tipping point, you mustn't fall back into like not practicing at all. And that is where the real massive transformation starts to arise, because it becomes a part of your life where you don't see it as this thing that you can negotiate with. If I do practice today, I will show up as a better parent, I will show up as a better worker, I'll show up better for myself, and be happier in my own being. So that's when it starts to feel like this is seamlessly integrated into my life, and I don't have to think about it as this arduous thing that I have to do. So we just looked at how time is such a crucial factor when it comes to making real lasting change on the mat. But the second key factor is energy. The energy factor is almost overlooked because we all think that we have infinite amount of energy, but I'm sorry to break it to you, we're all aging, we're all getting older, and we have a finite amount of energy. Think of it like this pool that you have to replenish. Everything that you do, from work to socializing to yoga practice, everything that you want to do actually draws from this large pool. Now, to be productive at work, you've got to be able to channel all that energy, and you have to do it into tasks that you really want to do. So we're directing the energy into a specific task and then doing that really well. And then over time, we see results in our work, in our family life, whatever, even in our yoga practice. But to do that, you first need to create energy. You need to have a way of replenishing the energy. So when we sleep and we wake up, we do yoga practice first thing in the morning. We know that, our body's been replenished through the time of sleeping, and now we have enough energy to practice. But at the end of a long work day, if you already feel depleted, you've got to do something. Maybe it's a little bit of breath work, maybe it's taking a shower, maybe it's cleaning your energy, your space, whatever it is, to replenish your energy in some way. Maybe it's eating correctly, so that you feel like when you show up on the mat, you have a little bit of energy that you can channel into your yoga practice. Yeah? Now, the second most important thing is not just to take all that energy, but it's to concentrate it. It's to give it direction, give it force, and this is your multiplier effect. Now, you and I have the same 24 hours in the day, but if I can practice with more presence, with more awareness, with more focus, then my practice will be twice, thrice, 5 times as effective as someone who isn't concentrated on the mat, who's thinking about dinner, who's thinking about that to-do list, who's thinking about that kid crying in the next room. And that's why, even though people practice for 4, 5, 10 years, they may not see the same results that many of my clients see within my program, because I give them a way of concentrating their mind first, of replenishing that energy first through a simple like pranayama practice, a little bit of training their drishti, spinal movements, whatever it takes to get to that point where, okay, I have enough energy to pour into this practice, to concentrate my mind, and then what comes out of it is more energy. Yoga is the one thing that takes time and energy, but it also gives you time and energy. It also gives you like this lifestyle change wherein you can actually see, okay, I'm putting in time and energy into my yoga practice, but I'm getting it back in so many other ways because I'm training my mind for that period of time to control, regulate, and almost sharpen my mind in an electric sharpener. And that's what these practices of yoga do. They help you concentrate the mind, they help you channel them into the real life tasks that you need to do, and it's ultimately like a way of replenishing your prana shakti or your energy. So this is why it's so important to focus on the energy factor. Now let's take a look at what focusing this energy actually means in like a real life example. Now imagine you've got a little magnifying glass and you're trying to concentrate the sun's rays into this magnifying glass and then onto a single piece of paper, and then over time, you've seen this probably in your high school experiment, where you concentrate it for long enough, you hold it steady, you're not moving your hand, you're not getting distracted, you're holding it there, you're facing the heat of the sun, but you're determined to spark a fire on this piece of paper. With enough time and enough patience, and if the sun is bright enough, you will definitely cause this paper to catch fire. And imagine catching fire as the thing that you want. You want all of your goals, all of the things that you want to do in your real life to catch fire, to actually take form. And you can only do that if you focus your energy, if you concentrate your energy on a little narrow coin-sized portion. Only then can you create a fire. Otherwise, it'll be like you're taking a massive mirror. Imagine taking your mirror from your, dressing table. You're taking your mirror and you're going up to the sun and you're saying, look, I'm just going to reflect all this energy, and because this is a massive mirror, I can shake it around and like get as much energy as possible. This is what you're doing when you're doing like shiny object things, like going to different classes and taking different healing modalities and drinking different things and doing different things. Doing so much, you're not actually focusing your energy into one thing that will create the fire. And there's two types of people in this world, and this is like person one is called the energy scatterer, and person two, let's call them the energy focuser. So person one does Monday run club, Tuesday gym, Thursday Pilates. On a weekend, they're doing a random yoga drop-in class. They're also trying a 30-day nutrition challenge, and they also have like new meditation apps downloaded on their phone. This person is like, it represents how most people actually approach their fitness and wellness, because they think the more the better. The more I can do for myself, the better it's going to be for me, because I can also make this a social thing. I can also include my friends. I can also get out a little bit. And it's amazing, like you should definitely be looking at your fitness and wellness as something that is easily integrated into life and actually gets you out of your computer, the ways that you're in. It's amazing if you can do all of this and do them well. However, most of us will be spending like most of our time like running or gymming or doing Pilates, and we probably just doing like 20% in each of those directions instead of 100% in one direction. And the second type of person is the energy focuser. This type of person, they just do one thing. And I used to be person one. I used to love going to the gym and meeting friends and going out and doing all of this. But I realized as I got busier and busier and I had more things to do, I didn't have the privilege of every week being this beautifully curated movement experience. I just needed to get it done because life was so busy that I needed to focus on just one thing, get it done, and move on with my day. And so the question is really, who do you want to be? Let's say you have 100 units of energy. Like every morning when you wake up, you feel replenished. You're like a little battery with 100 units of energy. Now, if you're like person one, then that 100 units of energy will be split into all these 10 different directions. So you'll be starting, and then you'll go into a meditation app, and then you'll get out, and then you'll journal, and then you'll come back, and then you'll do like a run, and then you'll come back, and then you'll do yoga, and then you'll stretch again, and then you'll do shavasana. You can split it into 10 different directions, and you might make an inch of progress in your meditation journey. You might make an inch of progress in your running journey, but you'll never gain enough momentum to make a real breakthrough. You'll never be able to run a marathon, or you won't be able to do full primary series, because it's like shaking that mirror, like being like, oh, I'm going to capture as much light as possible, and you can't really set that fire. You can't really catch the spark. And that's why you need to be like the energy focuser and take all of those 100 units of energy that you woke up with and channel it into one single practice. And it's important that you choose the right practice for this, because not a lot of practices can give you all of those things that you're looking for. Instead of making an inch of progress in 10 different directions, you actually make 10 inches of progress in one direction. You actually dig all the way down. You drill the hole until you feel the oil has come out. Now, without this focus, you'll never be able to achieve the kind of mastery that any of these yogis have achieved. And that's why it's important to use a magnifying glass instead of this big shaky mirror. And so choose the best approach for your energy allocation. But if you want to make significant progress, at least for a period of time, you've got to be the energy focuser. So what we're going to do now is learn how to optimize your efforts. So for a period of time, I'm not saying, never go on a run or never go to the gym. You can definitely integrate those aspects into your life. All I'm saying is, for a period of 6 weeks or for a period of 3 months, whatever you decide, I want you to really think of, how can I optimize my efforts? See if this thing is working, and if it doesn't, discard it and move on. The first step is to pick one style. So you can't go on YouTube in the morning and say, okay, what am I going to do today? You can't open up a app and say, okay, what should I do today? You've got to pick one style. Maybe it's Hatha, maybe it's Vinyasa, maybe it's Ashtanga. You've got to pick one style. And then step number 2 is to pick one teacher. Maybe it's you already have a teacher in your local studio or someone that you trust. You shouldn't be picking random different teachers online and listening to different advice. And the third step is to pick one format. And I'll go into what these formats are. But a format is just generally like, do you do it at home? Do you go to a studio? Or do you follow something like a teacher online? Like, what is the format, or how are you going to actually build this habit? And when you do this, when you focus your energy in this way, you'll then build a consistent habit, and all these small actions begin to compound, begin to get to that point where you're closer and closer to that massive breakthrough, and it will align you with your greater goals in life. Maybe your goal is to like find love or make more money or like travel the world, whatever it is. You'll start to see that when you align your actions, your daily actions and your practice with who you want to be, that thing, the other thing that you want to manifest actually becomes easier, because you're focusing all your efforts in your health and wellness so that you become better, so you have more capacity, so you become the person instead of just dreaming about being the person that has it all. So let's look at why Ashtanga Yoga. So step number 1, like I said, is to pick one style. I would say that you should pick Ashtanga. Obviously, I'm biased because that's what I teach, but it's because Ashtanga is one of the most effective methods of building strength, increasing flexibility, and mastering your breath. Now, if you can show me a vinyasa class that is primarily a breathwork practice and then some shapes on top, then I will take your advice. But I haven't seen a vinyasa class that actually teaches you how to breathe properly. And that's why I suggest that you start with Ashtanga, because it's a breathing, moving system. It builds your strength extremely quickly. As you can see, I've got quite strong shoulders, and I haven't been doing any gym, I haven't been lifting any weights. All I've been doing is Ashtanga Yoga, and it massively increases your flexibility, because the poses that you're doing aren't ordinary like cat-cow pose. They're actually quite challenging, and in order to get into those shapes, you've got to be able to condition your body through having enough strength, but at the same time softening and yielding enough. And the sequence itself helps you achieve that over time. And because it's simple and it's a set sequence of postures, you can memorize the sequence, and then you can practice it anywhere. Even if you've just got a towel, or you've got you're traveling, you've got a little bit of space next to your bed, that's plenty, that's enough for you to practice. And you don't need any fancy equipment. You don't need to be carrying around dumbbells or stretch bands or anything. A towel or maybe just a travel yoga mat will do. And all you need to know is that for Ashtanga Yoga to work, you need to show up. You need to practice at least 4 times a week, ideally 6 times a week. And the practice itself becomes this moving meditation that then slowly calms your mind, reduces your agitation, reduces your stress. And over time, initially it'll feel really difficult, and you'll feel irritated with yourself for not being able to do everything. But slowly, as you keep doing the same thing, you'll realize, wow, my body's opening up. I don't have to think about what I'm going to do. So that is your single style. Just for this period, just for this time, try it. And if you don't like it, you can always discard it and go back to whatever you were doing. And once you've built this foundation, once you have Ashtanga Yoga as something that you've genuinely tried, you've given it 6 to 8 weeks or 4 to 5 times of practice, then you can add back running, you can add back gym, you can add back everything else. And the reason I say this is because it's think about when you're sick, you want to eliminate all the things and see, is it because I've been drinking milk? Is it because I'm allergic to something? You just eliminate everything else and just do one thing at a time and see what is actually creating change in my body. And if Ashtanga is creating the right change in your body, then you'll know that, this is a thing I need to stick to. Otherwise, you can always discard it. The second step is finding your guide. And I cannot stress the importance of finding a single teacher. Now, we might be tempted to go on YouTube and be like, yoga with Cassandra, yoga with Adrian, yoga with XYZ. And these guys are amazing because they make it available for us to practice for free. But they are not your teacher, in the sense they don't have this energetic awareness of how you're practicing. And that is the most important element of any practice. It's that feedback, it's that kind of energetic exchange, and you practicing within the awareness of your teacher's Shakti, your teacher's practice. That is what will actually help you unlock these things that yoga can unlock for you. So this is where most people get lost. They travel from one studio to the other, they pick multiple teachers, they try all these different styles, and it leaves them confused, because people will give them conflicting advice based on what they've been taught, which style they've been trained in. So I would suggest for this period of time, don't go shopping for your guru or your teacher. Pick one, whoever you resonate with, whoever can actually see your potential and then actually lift you up to your fullest potential. So they might be able to push you, but at the same time, they're not like, physically adjusting your body into some shape that you don't want to be in, or they're not harsh towards you. And they have a soft, like gentle energy about them, so that you can actually take time, open up, and ultimately, when you're looking for a teacher, I think you should look for someone who is willing to give you the reins, who's willing to teach you how to practice. For me, I don't want my students to be reliant on me forever. When I travel to India, I want them to practice on my own. And that's why when I created the program, the Yoga Mastery program, I actually noticed that the people that were in the program stayed consistent with their practice while I was away in India studying. And the people that were just doing drop-in classes with me in person, they kind of fell off the bandwagon because it was harder for them to justify like practicing Ashtanga at home all alone. So that's why it's important that you find a teacher who's one, kind, compassionate, skilled, qualified, all those things, but ultimately frees you, like awakens your own inner teacher. And then step 3 is to find your format. Now, these are the 3 main formats that I see in the yoga world today. The first one is just to find a local studio. Now, you've obviously done this before. This offers in-person connection and community. Your teacher's eyes are directly on you. You feel the community vibe. So if you go to a studio, you're definitely going to be able to practice. It's also one of the most beautiful things to be a part of a yoga community, and finding a local studio is amazing. But a lot of us live in busy cities where travel just takes 45 minutes to get to the class and back, and that's impossible if you calculate how long you're going to need in the morning. Or you live in a small town, you don't have a good studio or a good teacher who can actually take you from where you are to where you want to be, but they see yoga as just like a stretch class that's fun. So you need to be able to find a local studio, and if you're lucky enough to have an Ashtanga studio next to you that does Mysore style, definitely go to the studio. But the second way is to do it online through an online platform. Now there's many of these, Allo Moves, Down Dog, Om Stars, you name it. I'm sure you already know more than I do about which ones you can choose. And they have usually a library of content where you can pick and choose any class that you want, depending on the length of time that you have, the focus that you want to do. But most likely you'll not see as much progress in just following pre-recorded videos as you will with an online teacher. Now, an online teacher is basically someone who has a Zoom class. They meet at specific times, and this combines the accessibility of having practice at home, but at the same time you have guidance from a teacher, so it combines that element, and you find that, okay, this feels good. Now, all 3 of these formats individually, while they're amazing, and this is what the whole yoga world is doing right now, I believe that all of these independently aren't sufficient. Now, I want you to pause the video now and just think of what I said and see if there was 3 people and each of them chose one of these options, which one is the least likely to succeed? I can almost guarantee that it's the person who chose the online platform. And the reason for that is that without this essential element of live feedback, of being in the awareness of a teacher, of having that sense of energetic exchange, they probably just be doing things that they don't know are right or wrong, but they're just doing it because, oh yeah, I need to do my yoga practice and I need to move on. So the online platform, though it's amazing and it gives you accessibility, you can do it literally at any time, it's much, much more low cost, it also has its disadvantages. Now, the second most effective thing would probably be to do it at an online teacher where you have someone who's guiding you through it, but at the same time finding a time slot that works for you, given how you literally have 45 minutes or 1 hour to practice, and if they are guiding a class even half an hour later, then you probably missed the class, and maybe you've got to go pick up your kid from school in the evening, so you can't attend a class. And the fixed time slot problem comes into play when you're looking for an online teacher. And the last one is a local studio, which has its disadvantages because you're tied to a local studio, which means if you're traveling, something happens, your teacher moves, then your practice is dead. So for these reasons, I believe that all of these individually don't work. Now, that's why when I devised the Yoga Mastery program, I made it hybrid, which means you can come to a in-person class, you can do it online, you've got the live component, you've also got a structured curriculum, you can have personalized guidance with me through private sessions. And so when I looked at all these formats, I said, okay, how can we combine these formats in an intelligent way, but give people options, give people the chance to actually explore what works for them, given their lifestyle, given that the goal is to practice consistently, not to go to a local studio and be stuck to that studio, or only practice with the best teacher online through pre-recorded content, or keep the cost as low as possible, so therefore you go to a group class. So it's about finding a way in which you can integrate it into your life. So for now, for this experiment, I want you to find one format. You can either pick a local studio, an online platform, an online teacher, or join the Yoga Mastery program and see how that works for you. But essentially, at the end of this, you will have picked these three things. You will have picked a single style, just one teacher, and you've actually given yourself one format, which means you're not thinking about, okay, what else can I do? And you're really focusing your energy to doing just one thing. Because this is the only way that you can see true transformation. It requires a commitment of your time and a focusing of your energy. So give yourself a longer time frame, allow yourself to focus your energy on one style, on one teacher, and on one format. And then at the end of that timeline, whether it's 6 weeks or 12 months or whatever you've decided, once you've finished consistently practicing during that time, you can then reassess. You can say, is this working for me? Is there something that I need to change? And ultimately, I want you just to embrace the process as much as possible, because know that this is having a compounding effect, even though you don't see it at the moment. Know that your small, daily, consistent efforts are building on each other, and it will lead to this exponential growth. Because if you don't see it that way, you're just going to end up quitting. And if you're ready to stop scattering your energy in 1,000 different directions and start building real, true transformation, then I want to invite you to join the Yoga Mastery program. I'm not just saying this because I made the program. I'm saying this because I've actually seen so many people go through this structured practice, and they see it as this progressive, authentic, time-tested way to make it really, really, really easy for you to just roll out your mat in the morning and practice yoga consistently. So click the link in the description below to learn more and join the program. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. If you're enjoying these videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let me know in the comments if any of this resonated, or if you have any other suggestions on what I should make next. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. But until next time, stay bendy, stay brilliant, and Hari Om.